Today on Won't You Be My Gamer, we're meeting the Greeks going all the way back to Odysseus' journey, the Trojan War, Socrates, and we're hearing what a real Greek classics professor thinks of it. We're joined by Aphrodite Angelopoulou, who is professor at USC here in SoCal. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Nicole, what are we playing?
We are playing one of my favorites, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'm going to be Cassandra, and you're going to go on an adventure.
Cassandra with a K, like
Cassandra
Nicole with a K.
Yeah. Coincidence with a K?
I think not.
Okay, so this is Socrates right here in the blue. Is this how you imagine him looking?
You know what? He was notoriously ugly. It's pretty good what they did.
And his outfit looks very comfy.
It does.
Is his outfit kind of what a scholar would have worn?
It seems so that this is would have been a regular the so-called chiton that they would wear.
Do togas bother you, or are they?
Togas are like in the Roman period, and it's a little bit complicated. Because they have different types of dresses. The Greeks and the Romans, and they have different names for each ones. But the chiton would actually be the most common one that we know.
Do you know what time period this takes place, Nicole?
I think, if we're talking about Socrates, we're in the classical period.
Okay.
So it's 5th and 4th century. And Socrates was put to death in 399.
Why was he put to death?
He was accused of introducing new gods and of corrupting the young. And he drank the hemlock.
What gods were observed that he tried to usurp or?
So the thing about Socrates to know is that we don't have anything written from him. We only know about him through his pupils. We know about him through Plato and Xenophon. And he talked about this voice that was talking to him all the time and was deterring him from doing things. And it seemed as if this voice was kind of this divine voice. And people were pretty troubled about that. And the way he talks about gods, I guess I should say through Plato, is pretty different than the way we know about gods from Homer and Hesiod, the canonical gods. He talks about God and this intelligent being that organizes everything in the universe. So it's pretty different from what we know from Homer and Hesiod, which were like the Bible for the Greeks at the time. But the thing that probably made Socrates unlikable was that he was associated with a lot of people that damaged Athens pretty bad. One of them was Alcibiades, and I don't know if he's a character in the game.
Okay, I can't remember exactly. We're going to meet a few new people soon.
Yeah. So he was in a circle of aristocrats who either, damaged the democratic government or betrayed strategic plans from Athens to Sparta.
One of these guys might be...
Oh, that's Aristophanes.
Is it? And then Hippocrates?
Hippocrates, he's supposed to be this... we know very little about him, but he's supposed to be this figure, the best physician that has ever been. We really know very little about him. We know about those who practice the so-called Hippocratics. Hippocratic Oath. But we know very little about him. But he was a contemporary of Socrates. So the period is all, it's the classical period. And Aristophanes, he's the most famous comedian. And he wrote a play in which he made fun of Socrates, that, he taught young men to... he was being paid, he taught for a fee, and he was teaching all these weird things, and as a result they would all be very scrawny and never go out and exercise in the sun. It would not be athletic, it would not be masculine enough.
Indoor kids.
Yeah, indoor kids.
Yeah, too many video games,
or
the equivalent thereof.
Yes, exactly.
Was Socrates a student of Aristotle?
No, Aristotle was a student of Plato, and Plato was a student of
I always
Socrates.
forget
Yeah.
the chain of
Yes,
who
yes.
tutored who.
So he's the youngest. He's the youngest. So it's Socrates, Plato, Aristotle.
This is after we fought the major battle of the game, and sadly Pericles is no longer with us.
He perished.
He perished,
please.
Ecclesiastes.
Yes.
So Pericles is supposed to have, by that time he's absolutely dead in historical terms because he died from the plague that hit Athens 2 years into the Peloponnesian War, the war between Athens and Sparta.
Who is Pericles, though?
Pericles is the most famous ever the statesman of democracy and everything we know about Athens. He is the person around whom all these myths have been created.
So when did the events of the Odyssey take place in relation to this period?
Okay, so that's all right. So that's interesting because when I saw the Odyssey, I thought we were talking about the time period of the Odyssey, which is different.
Yes.
So here we are in Athens in the classical period, and the Odyssey talks about events and people that took place in the Bronze Age, so many centuries before. And the Odyssey itself, as we know it, as we have it, was written down sometime in the 8th century BCE.
Okay, so how did the people living in this time, the Platos, the Socrates, the Pericles, how did they feel about the Odyssey? Like, is there anything comparable to something that we regard now?
So that's a very good question. I'll tell you why. Because the Odyssey and the Iliad were, for the Greeks, it was their staple, their education. That's how they knew their gods from. That's where they knew their gods from. They were all educated. All citizen men were educated in the Odyssey and the Iliad. However, Plato and Socrates always, we know about him through Plato, disapproved of Homer and Hesiod because the way they presented the gods, that they were full of vices and very problematic, and God is good, so it could not, you couldn't have this kind of behaviors that you see in the Odyssey, in the Iliad, and in Hesiod, the way that the gods are depicted there.
So would they have looked at Homer with judgment
Yes.
as if like, oh, he was a soap opera writer or he was a reality television producer or something like that, trying to create drama or something?
I mean, one of the most famous dialogues of Plato is the Republic, right? Where Socrates is the protagonist, the main interlocutor, and he imagines what the ideal city will be. And this ideal city, Homer would be banned because he's corrupting young men. That's not the kind of values that they're supposed to be taught. They're supposed to be courageous, they're supposed to be brave, they're supposed to have temperance and self-control all the time, and you can't have an Achilles crying like a baby. You can't have fathers mistreating sons or sons mistreating fathers, which is all over Greek mythology. Yeah. You can't have Odysseus, who is such a wise man, say the best thing in life is a banquet.
I mean, I don't disagree.
But
so.
For Plato and his program, that this is all very problematic.
So in the Odyssey, Odysseus sets out on this journey. Can you give us kind of like the basic quick summary, if possible?
About the Odyssey,
yes.
Right? Well, so it takes place right after. It's essentially one of the stories after the Trojan War. Everybody gets to come home, but their homecoming for all these warriors is notoriously disastrous. A lot of them don't make it home. And Odysseus, it took him 10 years to return home to Ithaca. So he's stuck for many years in Calypso's island, where she keeps him against his will because she wants him to be her partner, her spouse. And then, he eventually, the gods with Athena's pressure, decide that it's time for you to come back home. And they put pressure on Calypso, and she's forced to say yes to Zeus, obviously, because who dares to say no to Zeus? And the reason why he stalls, obviously, the most important episode is the one with the Cyclops. He's the son of Poseidon, and blinding him is a big no-no, and it enrages Poseidon, and Poseidon decides that I'm going to make your journey very, very long.
Yeah.
And you have to come home because that's your destiny. and it has been decided, and Zeus is what Zeus wants, but I'm going to make sure that you suffer.
The idea of destiny with the Greeks, can you talk about that a little bit?
Of course. There is this so-called, this something that is supposed to be fated, that is supposed to happen, which seems to be a principle that is operating even above the gods. Even gods have to submit to what is fated. So there is a very famous moment in the Iliad where gods at that time in the Bronze Age where they were having children, demigods, right? Like Achilles, like other people who were born to gods. And Zeus has a son, Sarpedon, who is about to be killed by Patroclus in the Iliad. And he's contemplating whether he's going to save his son. And then Hera intervenes and tells him, are you going to go against fate and do something that is in violation of fate? And all the other gods will disapprove, because then everybody will want to save their own son who is in the battlefield. And he submits to that, and he lets Sarpedon die, and very famously leaves drops of blood fall on the earth to show his pain and grief for his son. So there is destinies, something that is even above gods, that gods themselves need to obey to that.
It's just pre-written, and if you don't obey it, is chaos what results?
We never find out, because nobody ever transgresses that.
Here's my ship. Here's my ship. This is my crew.
I love your crew. So again,
The Amazon.
yes, it's the Amazons, but not on dry land.
Yeah.
But I love that.
Herodotus.
Very famous historian.
Yeah.
And everything we know about the Persian Wars between Greece and the Persian Empire is from his histories. He recorded that.
My friend.
Where are you off to, Nicole?
We're going to help
I'm not sure.
Herodotus. How do we say it?
Herodotus or Herodotus.
Herodotus. We're going to help him on his mission back to his home island of
Of course, my friend.
Samos.
Nice.
And so we're going to go on a little ship
I'm
battle.
not sure I could make this
Cool.
trip.
That's
Well, hopefully
scary.
we don't battle, but we are going to go on our
Scary.
ship.
Are you friends with the Athenians? What's the deal?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean the thing about Athens and Sparta is that Athens is the biggest naval power, and Sparta has the infantry. So it's the army versus the navy, I guess.
How much travel happened by boat back then?
A lot, because they were having. First of all, they went all over. They had colonies all over Asia Minor and Sicily, so they were all over the place, all over the Mediterranean, and they were big in commerce and exchange of products and ideas and all that. So it was Greeks were sea people.
Just want to take a quick moment to thank you all so much for watching, for subscribing to the channel, supporting us. You can go to pbssocal.org/gamer to continue supporting us and find out ways to donate. We have a really cool shirt that you can get at certain donation levels. So thank you. We're so glad that you're here. Do you have any favorite moments from the Odyssey? Like the ones that just get you like super pumped when you
One
read
of
about
my favorite moments is when Calypso, has agreed. Hermes goes to Calypso and says, Zeus asks you to let Odysseus go, and she says yes and all that, and then they have this dinner where she tells him, I'm going to let you go, and he's very suspicious of whether she's going to do it or not, and she tells him, I offer you immortality. You can just be here with me forever and be young and live forever. And he's very diplomatic, and he tells her, like, Penelope looks nothing like you. She's immortal. You're a goddess. You're beautiful. But I still want to go home. He needs to. What it means to be Odysseus is to be king of Ithaca, the father of Telemachus, and so he chooses mortality over immortality. And it's just, to me, that's the most important, I guess, moment in the Odyssey.
and a huge theme of it.
Yeah.
Is the choice that
Yeah.
he makes
Yeah.
and the ramifications thereof.
Yeah, and if you think about the two biggest heroes, right, you have Achilles and Odysseus, who are so different in many ways, but both of them, in both poems, they make this choice. Achilles decides that, in order to take vengeance for Patroclus' death, the moment he re-enters the battle, his doom is certain. He's fated to die. And he knows that, and he makes that choice willingly. So he chooses mortality and death, and Odysseus chooses that too, but it has a more humane twist than, with the Achilles, which is all doom and gloom, obviously.
Why do you think so many people in the Odyssey wanted Odysseus? Like Circe and Calypso, and he was just so
really
adored.
attracted to Odysseus? That's my question. Because me
Was
too.
he a hunk?
He must have been a
was-
hunk.
He wasn't your typical. He was just so cunning and intelligent, and a survivor and a diplomat. And he knew always what to say, and he
Charming, it sounds
he
like.
was the epitome of the charming person. So I think he and the fact that he's so elusive, and the man of many wiles and many turns, So he's my favorite hero of all.
I guess I always just felt like, man, all these women seem so isolated and bored.
Yeah.
But this one
That
guy
too.
shows up and they're like, okay.
That too.
Mine.
yeah.
That too played a part. Absolutely. I mean, Calypso, Circe, all of them. And Nausicaa, right? The young princess who hopes to have her as her husband. All of them want a piece of him. But what is important about that is that you have the hero trying to make it back home, and the obstacles to that goal are women. Are all these female characters that stand in the way, and they represent temptation. That's
love that.
That's the important thing, the pattern.
We need a modern retelling where all these women are like, this guy's got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Cramping her stuff.
Exactly.
He just shows up uninvited.
Yeah. And I mean, Circe in the end does help him a lot. She's very helpful with him. But, she also wants to keep him. Yeah.
Nicole, your character is Cassandra. Is it like the Cassandra?
Is it?
No, like the Cassandra who predicts things.
Yes.
No.
Oh,
No,
that's
my name's
so
starts with
sad.
a K.
I think she's such a compelling character.
She
Right.
is. Yeah.
Because she also, is she silenced? She can't speak, or she's...
She can speak. The problem is that she is cursed essentially by Apollo to speak and never be believed, because initially Apollo wanted her as his mistress, let's put it this way, and she said initially yes, but then she regretted it and refused, and to punish her he told her, okay, you're going to give all these prophecies, but nobody will ever believe you.
We have a question from YouTube. Why are the gods so mean in most Greek stories? And did the average Greek actually believe that these stories happened?
That's a very good question. So they are very capricious, and for all modern readers, and a lot of the times my students too cannot fathom that gods can operate in this way, but they just behave. You can think of them as immortal, undead, essentially, beings with all the traits that a human being would have.
What a big choice here.
Okay. Thank goodness I don't have to. I can blame you guys for whatever
Right,
I
people
choose here.
aren't equal. All people are equal.
Keep posing that question.
He is posing that question because I'm given the choice of, if I kill a woman, I can free a slave. And if I don't kill her, then he remains a slave.
Why would you have to? I mean, why is her life the one that's in balance? I guess is my question.
Because she is the one that has the papers that say that this man cannot leave the farm or whatever. He wants his freedom. He deserves his freedom. And my choice here doesn't change anything, but I still have to pick one.
I mean, I think
Look, historically speaking, no, they were not equal at that time, at the period.
Yeah.
So if you want to be accurate, historically, you're going to say are not equal. But ideally, all people are equal.
you're talking. Did Socrates believe that all people are equal?
Socrates probably was, we don't have anything from him that expresses, I think it was pretty standard that, there were citizen men, and then there were women who were second-class citizens, and then there were slaves, and slaves was such a,
Understood.
it was a
right?
natural
Yeah.
thing for any Mediterranean society at the time.
Something I learned when I read that book, Hera, was that Heracles was named in in dedication to
Yeah,
Hera.
yeah.
I had no. And
Yes.
when you say the names next to each other, you're like, oh, of course.
Yes, it's
But
actually
I never thought of that.
literally it's the glory of Hera. Hera and Kleos, which is glory, which is all these heroes like Odysseus and Achilles and everybody, that's, this undying fame that your name lives way after you expire.
Now we're going back to the slave master.
No, because we have to kill him, and I don't want to show that. So we're not gonna. But trust that he will get what's coming to him.
Good.
Yeah, he will.
Spoiler, but good.
But off camera.
How are the Iliad and the Odyssey connected?
So they are the stories around the Trojan saga, let's say, and the homecomings are all. And one thing to note is that all these stories are orally transmitted. They were like much later on written down in the form that we have them today. So they're circulating around the same time about these very famous heroes. And the Odyssey, in many ways, is supposed to be reflecting on the war because it's a story of homecoming. So they are. Some people think that the Odyssey is slightly late, like after the Iliad, but they're essentially around the same period, and they are the origins is the Trojan War and the aftermath of the Trojan War. Yeah.
So the Trojan War, that all started with the kidnapping? Or is there more to it than, is that reductive?
With the abduction of Helen,
Okay.
But one of the biggest questions ever, even in antiquity, is whether Helen went by her own volition or she was actually kidnapped. You probably know, because I know that you love mythology, you know all about the Helen drama, right?
And the apple.
The apple.
Golden apple?
The golden apple and the fight between Athena, Aphrodite, and Hera, right? So Aphrodite was the one who promised Paris the most beautiful woman in the world. And in the Iliad, at least, we see Aphrodite being very controlling over Helen, and Helen being an unwilling participant in all this.
Because Helen was married and had a child, right?
With Menelaus, yes, she had a child, and she left all that behind. But even in antiquity, there was this huge debate about whether she left on her because she wanted to, or it was under Aphrodite's power. So, and she is in Greek tragedy, she's being treated very unfavorably. And she's this very narcissistic and self-involved woman who has no clue of all the damage and the suffering and the trauma she has caused around her. So she's not very likable.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because, like, of all the people who had agency at that time, not her.
Yes, no, and that's the thing. It's very easy. Everybody blames Helen for the war, not Paris. I mean, he too gets some blame, but it's Helen. She's the one who is blamed, a woman.
Thank you so much for joining us, Aphrodite. How can people continue to learn from you?
They can come to one of our classics in the classics department, where we offer all sorts of classes related to those heroes and the Greeks in general, and the Romans, by the way. I know some of you are interested in the Roman Empire too. And also, they can watch this show because I'm pretty sure I'll come back and we can talk about it more.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, you're coming back next week to play Hades 2 with us.
Yes.
This is very exciting. Nicole, how can people support us otherwise?
You can head to pbssocal.org/gamer and make a donation. We can't do the show without you. You're how this happens, and we are so thankful for all those who have donated and all those who are typing in the website right now. Thanks.
Maybe we should just go now and sit and talk about different theories and discourse, and that seems like something that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Or we could all just go talk about Lord of the Rings.
We could, yes.
Yeah.